KCAA.
The following program is produced by the AM First Radio Network and distributed by Global American Broadcasting, the GAB Radio Network.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. I am Attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Andrea Rodeman. This week, like every week, we'll be discussing critical social and legal issues that are impacting our communities. This week, we have a very special guest with us to discuss this issue, Mr. Anwar Diop, who was a former prison nurse who was attacked by a white prisoner and was falsely accused and convicted of workers' comp fraud for filing a claim arising from the attack. And the matter is currently on appeal. So thank you for joining us for this edition of Justice Watch, Mr. Diop.
Thank you, Attorney Zulu Ali.
And all right, so basically I want to address a couple of things before we get there, because one of the things that we're going to talk about is this whole idea of why African Americans are more likely to be accused and convicted of crimes. And I wanted to actually go in before we started discussing the issue, Mr. Diop, just to let the audience in on a couple of statistics that I think are important. One of the statistics that I want to talk about, and we'll just go through them, is that more than half of death row exonerees are Black, probably about more than 60%. So considering the population of the U.S. and the fact that you have over 60% of the people who are exonerated from death row happen to be African Americans. About half of the people currently on death row are African Americans. And the death penalty is more likely to be used in cases in which a white person is killed as opposed to an African American. Since 1976, there's been 300 people accused of murdering white people that have been executed, then compared to 21% of white people accused of murdering Black people. 60% of the people who, and then we're going all the way, now we talked about 1976, but the numbers since 1989 are actually still the same with the numbers of African Americans that are exonerated. And we also talked about that innocent Black people are 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a murder than innocent white people. It takes longer to exonerate an innocent Black person. Black people spend an average of 13.8 years in prison before being exonerated, as opposed to 4.5 for their white counterparts. Police misconduct occurred in more than half of all wrongful murder convictions cases involving innocent Black people. And we're just actually talking about numbers as relative to murder cases, but we're not even talking about the numbers as it applies to other type of incidents. So just so that we can, and I think that what I want to do in your case is I kind of want to, Mr. Diop, I want to back into it. So in other words, instead of kind of letting them know what happened in your case and just kind of letting them know what the issues are and what the problem is in the grand scheme of things, I kind of want to first talk about, what we need to do. And then your case explains why we need to do these particular things, right?
Yes.
And so, I guess I want to begin by making it clear that, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong as far as my attitude and my perception as to ultimately what do we want as far as people of color, as far as what we need to do with the problems that are going on in our communities as it relates primarily to the criminal justice system, and to be quite honest, with everything. I want to begin by making this statement, the first statement that I want to make is that I have no desire or interest in being accepted. Right? Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Right? So, in other words, the whole idea and any agenda that begins with the idea that, you know, there's this desire to be accepted, I believe is counterproductive. And I'm just speaking for myself, it's definitely something that I'm truly not interested in. Right? I mean, that I have no interest in being accepted by anyone. Um, whether we're talking about the majority of society or the majority of the community in America.
Mhm.
And the reason why I do that is I think that the narrative that we have in this country is a warped and a misleading narrative when it comes to the issue of race. And what do I mean by it being a warped narrative is that the idea that racism is about superiority is a misnomer. Racism is not about superiority. It isn't. I think to a certain extent, although we tend to use the word privilege, I think that we can, I understand how we use the word, but I don't necessarily, buy into the whole idea that it's necessarily an idea of privilege either. And this is why I say that. Let's begin with the whole idea about why it's not superiority. It's not superiority because the the paradigm, or at least the system of American justice as it relates to the injustice towards African Americans, does not derive out of a an idea that African Americans are necessarily inferior, right? It ultimately gets there, but it derives from an idea of inferiority, meaning that the reason why they do those things or why they have tried to oppress black people is out of fear, right? It's really a fear.
It is.
You don't fear people that are inferior to you. You fear people that you believe um, that you believe that basically may impede your progress or impede your livelihood in one way or the other.
That's true.
So the whole idea, the whole thing, we've done shows on how even racism from a European perspective even came into existence. We've done those shows. And I'm not going to go into talking about how that happened. But I think that when we begin to start dealing with ways to address the issue of injustice, we have to be very careful about playing into narratives that are counterproductive and that are basically superficial. There is no real idea in these individuals' heads when they say they feel like they're privileged or that they feel like they are superior. That is not really true. I think that they may. I mean, let me give you an example. The best example I can give you is just imagine that you lived in, let's say you lived in New York City during the heyday of the mob, right? And let's just say was a member of maybe the five families, right? And that as a member of the five family, as opposed to maybe the masses, does the fact that you have the ability to kill someone, the ability to to destroy families, to do bad and ungodly things to people, does that really make you superior? Because if that was the definition of superiority, then the prisons are full of superior people. My ability or my desire to take your life without it being having any kind of mental or consciousness about doing so does not make me superior. I mean, clearly, it's just like imagine being in a domestic violence relationship. And let's just say the person who is abusive happens to be the husband. And let's just say he's very physically abusive to his wife, his spouse, or whatever, right? Would we think that the fact that he's able to mentally and physically uh, do things to her, does that make him superior? And we do know that inferiority is much of the psyche of a abuser. Now that same type of mindset is really the same type of mindset to people who subscribe to the idea of white supremacy or any kind of supremacy, right? So I think that we have to put it in context. The reason why these individuals and these police officers are doing these things to people who are hopeless and people who are helpless do not make them superior. It actually bullies actually have a degree of inferiority. It's not because you don't have to do that if you're superior. If I'm superior and I'm confident in who I am,
radio show but have no idea where to start? Or have you been hosting a podcast for a while and want to take it to the next level? If so, you need the Gab Radio Network. To host a show on the Gab Radio Network, all you need is your voice, and we'll handle the rest, from technical engineering to full-service audio production and much more. Every show on the Gab Radio Network can be heard on our station on the TuneIn Radio app. Plus, we put all of our shows on our satellite, which is accessed by over 5,500 stations. And here's the best part. You can host from anywhere you want. There are many means to connect to the Gab Radio Network remotely, and our staff of highly trained engineers and producers will make you sound like you're right here in studio. So, if you want to be on the Gab Radio Network, the same network that hosts the Small Business Advocate, Radio MD, and the Federalist, send an email right now to sales@gabradionetwork.com. That's sales@gabradionetwork.com.
Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
it's kind of like the system. And if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands, serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion on Mr. Anwar Diop and his situation regarding who was a prison guard who was attacked by a white inmate and ultimately accused of workers' comp fraud and was ultimately ultimately convicted of workers' comp fraud as it relates to that issue. So one of the things that I wanted to say, let's just go back, and I'm going to kind of like give the backdrop of the story as to actually um, what what took place. Now, on June the 16th, 2013, Mr. Diop was working in the infirmary at the Chino Hills Correctional Facility. And while he was there, he was required to administer insulin to an inmate. And Mr. Diop handed the syringe to the inmate, who injected himself with the insulin. And after injecting himself, the facility procedures required that the inmate remove the cap with a needle from the remainder of the syringe and put them separately into a bowl, which was to be returned to Mr. Diop. From that point, Mr. Diop did not take the syringe apart, or the inmate did not take the syringe apart, and instead reached the syringe through the divider where he was standing. So just so that we can get an idea, why don't you just at least before I begin, just tell me where you were positioned at the time of when the incident took place.
Yes, thank you, Zulu Ali, for having me. Hi, Rosa. Thank you for having me. I've been working for California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation for 12 years in Chino Prison. And as a prison nurse, we were required to give the inmates the syringe so they can inject themselves and then, put the syringe apart. But this inmate break the rules and then just use the syringe and stab me on my right index fingers and then told me, you are just gonna have Hep C, not malaria like in Africa. I was helped by a coworker who were inside the med room while the inmate was outside, but there was a window where we supposed to do all the exchanges. So the correctional officer, after the alarm sounded, the security alarm, he came handcuff the inmates, and then I was allowed to and I was taken to the hospital for first aid treatment.
So I kind of want to make sure that I basically be clear about the where you were located, and this is why I want to make sure, because I kind of like, just so that people understand and get an idea. You were standing actually in a secure area, and there's like a window and like a little place
Yes.
that almost like a movie theater or something like that, maybe. But however, there are bars there,
Exactly.
and that basically what happened is that when he attempted, instead of putting the syringe inside of the cup, he actually reached in and tried to at least, he ended up hitting you or making contact with you on your finger.
Yes.
With the syringe that he had used.
Yes.
And of course, concerned about that, that's when you obviously reported it to your superiors.
Yes.
And when you reported it to the superiors, this was back in 2013.
Yes.
You had used words that may have showed that there was contact made by using the word poked, right?
Yes.
And just so that I want to be clear that English is not your first language.
Yes.
And where are you from, Mr. Dion?
I was born in Dakar, Senegal, grew over there until I was, 23 before I come to the U.S.
Okay. And so
my first
basically,
language is French.
Mhm.
Actually, my first language is Wolof, and then my second language is French. I happen to speak Italian and a little bit of Spanish.
Okay. And so English is not your first, second, third, or fourth language, right?
No, it's not.
Okay. So basically, however, you were educated as a nurse here in the United States.
Yes.
Okay. And you also a graduate of University
Riverside.
of California, Riverside,
Yes.
right? Okay. So, and you had been at that particular time, you had been employed as a prison nurse for how long?
For 12 years.
Okay. So you'd been employed for 12 years. And the individual that you were administering the shot to, or happened to have been someone that were they serving a life sentence?
Yes, he was serving life in prison for 3 strikers.
Okay, so basically he was a violent offender, and he
Yes.
was there on for 3 3 strikes.
Yes.
And also, I understand that there was other evidence that would suggest that he had a history of violence, not just what put him in prison, but also history of violence against
The
um,
staff.
against the staff,
Yes.
some of the nurses, right?
Yes.
So anyway, so at this time, so he basically, makes contact with you and then tells you, don't worry about it. You're not going to contract
Malaria.
malaria like you would in Africa,
Yes.
right? Okay.
You're just gonna have Hep C.
Yeah, you're just going to have
Because that's
upset.
what he has.
Okay. So at any rate, so now you make contact, and at that point in time, you was taken to get medical treatment.
Yes.
And while this happened, there was also another uh, person, and when I say person, another employee who happened to be a nurse that was at the location with you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now you get treated, and at some point in time, you basically were off of work as a result of it, correct?
Yes.
Of
Yes.
being okay. And so you basically file a workers' compensation claim, and once you file a workers' compensation claim, then you at least later on you are deposed. There was a
Yes.
deposition that was done,
Yes.
and when you did the deposition, apparently there was, at least from what, and I'm just reading from the transcripts and what I obviously know about the case.
Mhm.
You basically stated that you were attacked.
Yes.
Okay. So after you advised that you were attacked, ultimately, there were the charges, or at least the allegation, at some point in time after that came, that because you said poked
Mhm.
and later said attacked,
Attacked. Yes.
then basically you were trying to get additional money
Yeah.
because being poked or it being an accident would mean that you would get less money than if you would have gotten attacked, or unless it was a violent act or something like that, right?
Mm.
And so, just to be clear, under the workers' comp, so this at the time that they had the charges, it was still pending in front of the workers' compensation board.
Yes. Court. Yes.
And the workers' compensation board had never made a determination that your allegation was one thing, or it was an attack, or they never even had an opportunity to even adjudicate your case fully, right?
Mhm.
Before they charged you.
Right.
Okay, so now you you plead not guilty and you go to trial.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and so when you plead not guilty and you go to trial, then you are tried at the Riverside County Superior Court, right?
Yes, in Banning.
In Banning. So anyway, so and we're getting ready to push up against the break, but I just want to make sure that our audience understand how we get there.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And so now, just to be clear, the allegation was the fraud came because they're saying that by using the word attacked, or saying that you tried to stab you,
Yes.
that you were fluffing the allegation so that you would get more money,
More money. Yes.
as opposed to when you first initially allegedly said that it was being poked and may not have been, or accidental.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And so now we go to trial, and you get an opportunity to you're supposed to get an opportunity to present your case.
Yes.
And so
Nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a Black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali, to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion with Mr. Diop, a California prison nurse who was attacked by a white inmate and ultimately was falsely accused and convicted of workers' compensation fraud. So anyway, so what I want to do is I'm going to, because there's a lot of stuff to unpack in this case.
Yes.
So I'm going to unpack things as the best I can, one issue by one issue, right?
Yes.
So the first issue I want to unpack is that now at the time there was a prison guard who was present when the incident took place. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell. Now, based upon the transcripts, I'm going to tell what the prison guard initially stated, and then I'm going to let you have an opportunity to talk about that particular issue.
Yes.
So the prison guard who was present at the time that the incident took place said that, and I'm summarizing, but this is the prison guard who was there at the time that the incident took place. Oh, you hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to say that one more time.
Yes.
This was the prison guard that was present at the time that the incident took place.
Yes. Correct.
He is called to the witness stand by the prosecution.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he gets up on the stand, his testimony is that while he was working there, that particular inmate that you were engaged in administering a shot to,
Yes.
he was present during the time, and then you said, I got attacked.
Yes. I'm
That
assaulted.
That was what he said.
Yes.
Or attacked or so, whatever.
Yes.
So then after that, he said that he blew an emergency warning.
Yes.
Then he said that he took that particular inmate into custody
Yes.
and led him off of the premises.
That's true.
Let me say that one more time.
Mhm.
The prison guard who was present at the time
Mhm.
was called as a prosecution witness.
Yes.
When he was called as a prosecution witness, he stated that he heard you say, I was attacked by the inmate. He tried to attack me.
Yes.
He blew an alarm,
Mm-hmm.
took the inmate into custody,
Mm-hmm.
and led him off the prison ground.
Yes.
Okay. I want you to repeat it and tell me that. And let's start there.
Yes. When they call him, the correctional officer said that at some point he heard the alarm sound went off, and then when he came in, he see the inmate telling him, "I didn't do anything." Then he hear me saying, "I am poked, I am assaulted." Then what he did,
Now let me go back and say you said poked, but he didn't. You that's not what the prison guard said. He said that you said you was assaulted.
yes, I
He
was
didn't say
assaulted.
poked.
Yes, he said, "I am assaulted."
Okay.
Then he handcuffed the inmates, and then let his other coworker take care of him and put him in the holding tank. That's when then he saw me pacing inside and being helped by my coworker to push the blood out of my finger.
So, that's what he said.
Yes,
Okay, and that was his testimony under the penalty of perjury.
yes,
Had you ever talked with him before?
no.
Had you ever discussed the issue with him before?
I've never seen him.
You've never talked
That was
to
the
him.
last time I saw him.
You never talked to him about any of the incident that took place.
No.
But this was his recollection of what took place.
Yes.
Okay. Now, after he testified, then the court went into recess.
To recess, yes.
And after the court went into recess, then according to his testimony,
Mhm.
he was taken to. Now, let me explain to the audience what recess is.
Yes.
Recess is when the court takes a break.
A break, yes.
And then people can leave the courtroom, they can do whatever. So the break was taken, everyone leaves the courtroom. He's taken into a and he speaks with the district attorney,
Yes.
and he speaks with the district attorney
And
or
the
the investigator
Yes.
on your case.
Yes.
After the court comes back into session,
Yes.
after the break is over,
Mhm.
the same
Correctional
correction officer
Mhm.
who has stated
Mhm.
that you said you had been attacked was called back to the witness stand
Yes.
and completely recanted his statement after speaking to the prosecutor and the investigator at break,
That's true.
right?
Yep.
Okay, talk to me about that.
Yes. I mean, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was feeling like I was not living in America because the same correctional officer under oath in front of a judge and a jury come back after the court recess and said, "I want to change my testimony." And what is heartbreaking is the judge allowed him to completely recant his first testimony. And the question I'm asking myself is, if his first statement was benefit to them, would they let him change it to benefit me?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I think in a final analysis, I mean, I think that common sense will tell you what is the likelihood that someone who does not know you would get up on a witness stand and give an account of an incident that is consistent with what you said. I mean, how is that possible? That could not possibly be an accident. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, Rosa.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that to me, I think that at that point in time, that was really important.
Yes, yes, it is.
Now I'm going to talk about the second thing, which I think is really important.
Yes.
The second thing that was important, which was part of your motion for a new trial.
Yes.
Part of the motion for the new trial, you argued that while your attorney and the prosecutor were not in the courtroom,
Yes.
that the investigator who was sitting by the prosecutor
Yes. Yes.
had made comments to the jury.
Yes.
Okay. So now I want people to understand now when the jurors are given a jury instruction that they are not supposed to talk with any of the parties or anybody involved in the case. They're not supposed to talk with them at all.
Yes.
And the reason why that is because there's an issue with overfamiliarity. If you're actually dialoguing and becoming friendly with the prosecutor or any of his agents, being an investigator, there's an issue of favoritism. Even if it doesn't have anything to do with the case, it can result in some sort of bias, right? Because I'm dialogue with you, I'm playing with you, there was no denial that there was any dialogue between the investigator and the jury outside the presence of the judge.
Yes.
Now, you did not know at the time that was improper.
Yes.
So it was later on where you brought that to your attorney's attention, and that became part of your motion for a new trial.
Yes.
However, that was denied.
It was.
Because it was done outside the presence of the judge.
Yes.
It was done outside the presence of the prosecutor.
Yes.
It was done outside the presence of the defense.
Yes.
And so that kind of over familiarity with the jury taints the jury, because now you're part of the prosecutor and you have the opportunity to establish a personal relationship with the jury.
Yes.
Whether you're talking about the Super Bowl, whether you're talking about NASCAR, whether you're talking about the NBA championship, whether you're talking about the weather, all of that is completely prohibited in a trial.
Yes.
Jurors are not supposed to talk to parties or witnesses or agents or anybody affiliated with anybody in the trial. But there is no question that that happened.
It happened.
But in light of the fact that it happened, regardless of whether the court found out about it 1 day later, 10 days later, 20 days later, or 5 years later, that is wrong.
Yes,
That completely shows some sort of bias,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so, let me just get your let me get your input on that issue.
Yes. What happened is I was very ignorant about that, and this happened so many times because anytime the judge goes sidebar with the prosecutor and the defense attorney, this guy was engaging in the direct communication, throwing jokes, and they were all laughing. And I was using that time to always turn to my wife and try to tell her not to worry because my kids was present too. But anytime I turned, the bailiff would tell me not to speak with my family. And then, I was quiet. And I thought it was normal that the investigator could have a conversation with the jury, but I was not part of it. I was just sitting and silent. But what is heartbreaking is when we find out that when we put the motion for a new trial, the bailiff and the investigator wrote statement saying that the communication happened, but they were not talking about the case. And the judge himself said that he believed what his bailiff told him, that they were not talking about the case. Then it looks like then it's fine. What about over familiarity?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that there's no question that the court talking to and having, especially the DA investigator talking is not. I don't think any judge would say that was proper. And then we also know that, so we're getting ready to go to the break, and we're going to...
radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a Black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep Your Hand on the Plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands, serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew. We're continuing with our discussion with Anwar Diop, a former California prison nurse who was convicted, who was attacked by a white inmate and ultimately falsely accused and convicted of workers' comp fraud. So now, just so we can hit that, I mean, we're coming up on at the top of the hour, so we don't have a whole lot of time, but I do want to go hit a few more issues. First of all, then there was also there was a witness who saw the investigator speaking outside of the courtroom.
Yes.
With the jury.
Yes.
And that means not just in the courtroom, but outside as well.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Now, had this been known at the time to your attorney, had somebody told your attorney at the time, there could have been a motion for a mistrial or an admonishment of the jury, right? Now, if the court staff was present when the allegations were, when the investigator was talking to the court, to the jury, everybody in the courtroom knew that that was not proper.
Yes.
So whether you're talking about the deputy, whether you're talking about the clerk, but nobody told, at least we believe nobody told the judge, right?
Nobody.
Had he had been told, I'm assuming that that the judge would have
Taking some actions.
well, he should have taken some action, right? That would have been what's proper. Now that's one thing. Also, I want to be clear about something else that was stated during the trial, is that when the inmate himself testified,
Yes.
he basically stated that he wanted to physically assault you.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to say what the transcript said that he said,
Yes.
but he said that even in front of the jury, in front of the judge, in front of the entire courtroom, this inmate who had, you had stated, attacked you,
Yeah.
stated that he would like to physically assault you.
Yes. He told me that I was lucky.
Yeah, and he
Yes.
says this in front of the entire, he didn't like you and he would want to physically assault you.
Exactly. He did say that.
Now, also, another thing that was stated during the testimony, according to the transcript, was that you wanted to get all of the witnesses, all the nurses who had incidents with this particular inmate
Yes.
to testify.
Yes.
But the judge would not allow it to happen
Yes.
because he said it was redundant.
Yes.
So he did not feel that that 3 nurses testifying that they were attacked was any different than 8 nurses saying they were attacked.
That's true.
So he basically did not allow you to call all of those witnesses.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Just because it was redundant.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Also, during the incident, just to be clear, during trial testimony, there was a time period in which, and this is something that you told me, was that during the trial, your attorney attempted to go and hand a witness an exhibit.
Yes, exhibit, yes.
And when he did that, he started to take a step towards him, then asked for the judge's permission, and the judge told your attorney, black attorney,
yes,
be careful, I might have the deputy tase you.
Yes, you almost
in
get
courtroom.
tased. Yes, in the courtroom.
How does that sound?
Wow.
I mean, it might be. I mean, how does that sound to you?
Exasperating.
And that's in the
Why?
transcript.
And it's in the transcript.
Yes.
That I'm assuming that a black lawyer would feel, and the jury. What does that? Because we talked about this last week. Courtrooms are theater. Perception is everything. Over familiarity. If you're sitting on the bench and you're dialoguing and having fun with a jury, what would be your perception? If you have a demeanor that is playful with the jury, do you think that would minimize the seriousness of the case?
Definitely.
So if you're sitting there and you're talking about playing in a baseball game,
yes,
or pitching in a baseball game, or doing something like that, do you think that would be appropriate in a case where a person's life is on the line?
No, not appropriate.
And so what happens is there is some degree of it. No, not some degree. It's all about theater.
Yes.
And the mindset of individuals who, through the overfamiliarity with the judge, the overfamiliarity with the prosecution's investigator, the fact that you're not allowing all the witnesses to be called, that does have an impact on creating a degree of bias among jurors.
Of course.
Do you think so? I mean, because that's not law school. Let's just be clear. Jurors are not law students. There could be a law student on the jury, but I don't think there was one on this jury. Jurors are not lawyers. Jurors are everyday people who only familiarity typically is going to be watching drama on television. That's what we don't teach jury in civics classes in school, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, and I know that I talked a lot about the case, and I kind of did, but I wanted to make sure people clearly understand what the issues are. With the case. Is there, and so I'm going to let you chime in a little bit about what you think, whether you want to chime in about something we talked about or something different.
Okay, what I want to talk about, like in that particular case, is like my life was at the line, and I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about all these sacrifices that I did in America to do whatever, to respect to the law, to help my community, not to be in trouble, like to be just like a model citizen. And that's what I've been doing for 19 years. I don't remember having even the traffic tickets. That's how I was working hard to be a model citizen. And now I'm in front of a judge who show up with a baseball and playing and telling the jury not to be surprised if one day they see him pitching in a like a major league baseball, and then sometimes playing with the jury, to the point that he was even being playful with the inmate when the inmate said that I was lucky that I was behind the glass, otherwise he was going to do something to me. And then you telling him I was going to write you up. This is the judge who play with the inmate while testifying. And as I was feeling like, this is taking the seriousness of this case.
Now, did he think that was funny? The judge think that was funny?
Maybe that's what he think.
Did he laugh?
Of course.
Okay. So when the judge was talking about the fact that he wanted you to that this person who had said he was going to physically assault you, did he admonish that person?
Yeah, he was looking at him and
laughing. Admonish him. Did he threaten? Did he tell him, no, you don't say that?
No, he didn't.
He even cussed, didn't he?
Oh, no.
I'm talking about the
inmate
inmate cursed.
Yes, the inmate cursed.
When he said he wanted to assault you, he said something that started with an A.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I just don't want to say the word. Another thing is this is the inmate who got like a lot of rule violation with the custody staff, meaning the correctional officers and the nurses. But how can you accuse me of fraud? That being about me saying that the inmate assaulted me, and then you not allowing me to call other people to come and testify their experience with this inmate. I mean, I was left defenseless. You telling me you cannot call those guys, and those are American people. They black, they white, they Hispanic. It was going to be like a different version of the how the inmate behave in the prison system.
Oh, anyway, we didn't run out of time. That's a lot. We could do that for several hours. But at any rate, thank you for tuning in, and Mr. Diop, thank you for sharing your story with us. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, same channel. And until that time, stay blessed.
Syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it.